Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. After finishing the chapter regarding Mubadara ila al-Khair, rushing towards goodness, the next chapter is Babul Mujahada, the chapter of sacrifice through effort, making or going through struggle to attain the closeness and the rada, the happiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Surah Al-Ankabut, at the last verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. That those who struggle and strive in our path, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. We will open up many ways. He doesn't say sabil. For those who know the word, the Arabic word, sabil is singular. Subul is plural. He doesn't say, if you struggle, if you sacrifice, if you make an effort, I will open up a way for you. No. He says, I will open up many ways. And these ways open up from places that we cannot even imagine. And how many times has it happened? I'm sure we've witnessed this in our own lives. That when we made an effort or we made some sacrifice, or even if we didn't and we just were feeling that, oh Allah, I'm in a tight place. And then all of a sudden something opened up, something that we couldn't even think of, we couldn't plan it. It was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the promise of the Quran, this is the promise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in this Surah Al-Ankabut. Now the narration, the first one from this chapter that we'll cover is a very short one but very powerful. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he says that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِّنَ النَّاسِ. There are two bounties, two blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that most of the people, they waste it. It's lost. They squander it. They undervalue it. They don't realize it's there until it's gone. What are those two things? As-sihha wal-faragh. Health, being healthy, having good health, and having free time, having the ability and the time to do what a person wants to do. When these two things are there, we don't realize it. But then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes it away, that's when we understand, right, that, oh, this was one of the biggest blessings. Having time, right? And how is it connected to mujahada? What does this have to do with making a struggle or a sacrifice? When we have to make some sacrifice, there's some motivation behind it. There's some determination. There's some urgency. But because we think that we have a lot of time and we think we have a lot of health, that mujahada gets put on the back burner. That I'm going to do it later. I'm going to do other things that are more important right now. And then sacrificing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come after. When we look at the example of time, many scholars, they mention the example, a very beautiful example of a person who is selling ice. Now back in the day, the people who used to sell ice, there was no refrigerator, there was no freezer. So when they would sell the ice, wherever they would get the ice from, then they would be in a rush to get rid of the ice. Now imagine you have like a cart. It happens nowadays too, where you see those people, they're on a bike or whatever, they're selling ice cream in a park or some amusement park, whatever, they have a small little cooler. Now think of that as it doesn't have a generator, it doesn't have electricity, and you're running out of time. Now you have a bunch of ice cream or a bunch of ice to sell, and someone grabs you and is like, starts chit-chatting, or someone, you see something and you're like, oh, let me check this out. The person with the ice in his basket that's melting, I don't have time. I don't have time to sit there and talk to you right now. My ice is going to melt, but how am I going to sell it? So he has that motivation and that urgency to do what he has to do, because he knows that his time is very limited. If he sits around and wastes his whole life, and then after that the ice will be melted. Similarly, in our situation, if we waste our time, if we waste our health, and then by the time we realize that, okay, now is the time to sacrifice, now is the time to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now is the time for mujahada, but then it's too late. By then it's too late. So this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling us that two of the blessings, two of the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that most people, majority, will waste is time and health. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding. Ameen wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام وتباركت على الجلال والإكرام. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك وغضبك والنار. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا واسعا وعملا متقبلا وشفاء من كل داء. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن عين لا تدمع ومن دعاء لا يسمع. اللهم إنا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب عمل يقربنا إلى حبك. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك وغضبك والنار. اللهم ادخلنا الجنة بغير حساب. اللهم ادخلنا الجنة بغير حساب وتوفنا مسلمين غير خزايا ولا ندامى ولا مفتونين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداءك أعداء الدين. اللهم انصر المسلمين في كل مكان. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين. اللهم حرر المسجد الأقصى. اللهم حرر المسجد الأقصى. اللهم احفظ حرمين الشريفين. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين برحمتك.